it's different. These are different mechanisms. Death camp, as I said before, is the mass industry of death. It is a place that has facilities that kill people as fast as possible, as efficiently as possible. Concentration camp is altogether a different thing. It's much more like a prison. And the concentration camp, that concept was actually invented by Russia, by Soviet Russia. And the concept of a concentration camp is not so much to imprison as to re-educate. Re-educate and produce a different person. A person that will comply with the regime. We're dealing here with a regime that has an ideology. It's a totalitarian regime that wants men mechanized to do just as he's told by the regime. And for those people who do not comply, they get sent to a place that is very close to a prison. Namely, he goes into that place. The idea here is to take away his previous identity. And like you go into a prison, you become a number. So you come into this place here, you have a name, you have your clothes, you have your identity, you come in here, you go through a process where you go in one side and you come out a different kind of a person. You look differently, your hair is shaved, you get a uniform, you get a number, you become a number. And all this already belongs to the modern age with bureaucracy and technology, of course. And the idea is to put this person in a kind of a regime where he is terrorized. He's terrorized into a different person. If he has a will, he better forget about that will. If he has an identity or he believes in something, he is going through a regime where he's so much fighting to survive, basically, that he forgets about those things. And basically, through terror and the terrible conditions where they get food, but never enough food. It's survival, it's submission all along. Till your personality changes into a subject. Instead of a person, you become an object, actually. And there is hard work, and there is re-education. Initially, there is also re-education. In other words, they give you, they lecture to you on how you should be, what you should do, what you should believe in, with an attempt to, after 6 months, 2 years, you come out and you comply. If you know what's good for you, you go along. In other words, concentration camp is not an instrument of death. Yes, penalty. Yes, it's penal. But in order to re-educate and to recycle you into society. This is why the people that were thrown into concentration camps were all kinds of people who belonged to different political ideas, often religious ideas like Jehovah's Witnesses, not criminals per se, sometimes criminals, people like homosexuals, with the belief that homosexuality is behavioral, and it's something that you choose to take on, and therefore the idea was that you come out and you're not a homosexual. And as we saw in Berlin, the Nazis didn't deal with lesbians. Gypsies. Gypsies were initially thrown into concentration camp because gypsy behavior was thought to be asocial. It didn't work. They didn't stay in one place. The idea was that their behavior could be changed. The Nazis from the beginning did not think or did not include Jews in the criteria of concentration camps. Why?
Because you can't change like.
Pardon?
Because they consider Jews like that it was their blood and you can't like change it.
It's a race. It's a racial attitude, and therefore nothing about the Jews can change. The Jew is what he is according to that theory because of things that are beyond that person's will. So it won't help. Nevertheless, there were Jews in concentration camps in certain instances. Now, I'm talking about concentration camps as the initial idea of what a concentration camp was supposed to do. The concentration camp was supposed to deal with those parts of society that did not conform. And what terror in concentration camps meant to do is to create conformity. People that conform with the regime, with its ideology. When the war broke out, the concentration camps, on top of everything, were kind of mobilized into the war effort. And the purpose became more and more economic. This is why towards the end of the war, or sometimes in the middle, Jews too were directed to concentration camp to use them, to use their labor before their death. Okay? So what we have here in Theresienstadt is really not altogether a concentration camp, although it has most of its features, and bureaucratically it was incorporated into the bureaucracy of the concentration camps. Theresienstadt was a prison for years before the war. This was the main prison of the Habsburg Empire. Here they imprisoned the Serb who killed the Archduke when the war started. In time of the war, this section became a kind of, it basically became the Gestapo prison, which was turned into a concentration camp, including that sentence, the title that you saw on the gate, work liberates, Arbeit macht frei. Yes, and the idea here is that when you go into this framework here, you'll work, you'll do as you're told, you'll come out. You'll be liberated. Not totally untrue. What's totally untrue? Anyway, this place was used as the prison, as the Gestapo prison for people who did not comply, and for people who did not keep the curfew, for people who were found out in the streets without certificates, for all kinds of wrongdoers. And sometimes we also find Jews here. People who didn't comply with the regulations in the ghetto, were sent over here. Sometimes they could deal with them over there too. No, sometimes they were sent over here. And all kinds of stories that are really exceptions to the rule. And so there were Jews here as well, but the idea about in a concentration camp is not about being Jewish, or not about being racial, not a racial reason. As a matter of fact, a way for a Jew to survive the Second World War was to be a killer. If you killed someone, often he would be imprisoned. And he would be imprisoned as a killer, not as a Jew. And very often they would forget about his Jewish background. And after 25 years, he might have even be set free.